If you keep on failing interviews and repeat the same mistakes or are too scared for the face-off, this is the last video you need to watch to crush that interview. I'm going to go over a 3-step framework that will give you a permanent interview buff. Let's be honest, you probably have heard a million times to stay confident, believe in yourself, speak with conviction, do that firm handshake, don't reveal your weaknesses. But how exactly do you become confident? Well, the thing is, confidence is not a blind belief that you are perfect. It is believing that you are fine with being worse than everyone else. So here's you in a completely fine and normal state. Then there's a part inside you that keeps producing anxiety and negative thoughts like, what if this happens? What if that happens? I'm not good enough. And the result is current you. Now, I gave over 20 interviews in the past 4 months trying to eradicate this diabolical piece of myself that just makes everything worse. But I actually begin to notice the more I try to control it, the more powerful it became. And that's when I realized that this part of me will always be there. By simply accepting and acknowledging its existence, it just makes me less stressful. I know this sounds very strange at first, but you're basically telling yourself that it is okay to be like this. In fact,
apparently a small amount of anxiety is good, but past a certain point, it negatively impacts performance.
By simply acknowledging that the anxiety and stress will always be there and observing it from above, your body will still release adrenaline, but it will not control you anymore, and it gives you more space. Now, I bet you have never heard that before. So that will take care of the questions that you completely know the answer to. But what about the questions that you don't know the answer to? No matter how prepared you are, there's always a chance of you bumping into a question that you cannot answer. So we'll break this down into 2 parts, mitigation and resolution. You actually have more control over the interview than you think. Sometimes your ego will get in the way and you will start describing very cool sounding things that you recently heard about, but lack in-depth knowledge of. And if you are a novice, chances are that your interviewer already knows about it. The interviewer is only going to grill you on things you say or mention in your resume. You steer the interview, so choose your words carefully and be humble at all times. You can actually tell the interviewer what you know and would like to be questioned upon, either directly or subtly. Now, people might tell you to use some clever wording or ways to deflect the question, but honestly, don't do it. Oftentimes, just admitting that you don't know something does not put you in a bad light. In fact, it is so rare for interviewees to admit this that you end up being in a more favorable position. It shows that you're honest, compelling, transparent, and a humble person. Secondly, don't just say, I don't have much experience with cloud systems. Say, I haven't worked with cloud systems professionally yet, but I have been experimenting with AWS in my side projects and I'm loving the flexibility it offers. This ends your statement on a high note, makes you look less bad, shows your willingness to learn new things, all while being authentic. So now you know how to deal with questions that you know the answer of and questions that you don't know the answer of. But you can still fail, even when you know the answer of every single question. And I cannot emphasize on how many amazing programmers I know that have failed big tech interviews only because they couldn't sell their skills. So have you ever felt that when you think in your head, your English is so fluent, so articulate, so perfect that you'd end up becoming a Nobel laureate, but then you actually start to speak and you sound like a dying horse? Imagine yourself as an application server. A foreign API request comes in. Now what generally happens is that the request gets handled by a generative AI model in your server. But the generative models, as we know, can be very slow. The more parameters there are, the slower it gets. So we opt for a distilled model for immediate responses, but end up completely compromising on the coherency. Sometimes, however, if you have already answered the question in the past, the response gets cached in a database. And as we know, we retrieve it in linear time and instantly give the most flamboyant answer known to mankind. So the question becomes, how do we cache all the answers that we can expect from the interviewer? Well, there are 2 main ways ways to achieve this. The best way is to make notes by memory. You might have heard before that when you write something down from memory, your grasp on the knowledge significantly increases. And now you know why that is. The second way is to verbally practice answering questions. You can easily do this by mocking an interview in front of a mirror or a camera, with ChatGPT, or even better, with a friend. In fact, this tactic is so powerful that it doesn't just apply to interviews, it applies for your whole communication skills.